Bambiz Marketing presents Elder Law Growth, the podcast that helps elder law and estate planning attorneys attract clients without wasting time or money. I'm your host, Amy Hurst. Let's dive in.
I'm doing $30,000 to $40,000 a month doing virtual estate planning. And I'm really only devoting a couple of hours a day to my law practice. Now, I've actually had people say to me, $30,000 to $40,000 a month isn't that much, which I get that I could be making more, because there are people out there who it's really their goal to have like $1 million law practice or, even more. And that's fine. The other side of the coin here is that I'm only devoting a couple of hours a day to it. It's having a lifestyle. And I think this is just something that we're all sort of thinking about differently post-COVID, just in terms of the world in general. We're all kind of like, maybe I don't really want to work all the time. Maybe I do want to spend more time with my family. I sort of crafted this, my firm over time. It didn't happen right away, but I've crafted it in a way that I'm able to have this consistent revenue. And I really only devote a couple of hours a day to it because I've got other things to do, right? I've got other businesses, and even if I didn't have other things to do, it's just nice not devoting your entire life to your job.
That was Laura Cowan, an estate planning attorney who began her practice in 2016, and now her business is booming by only working 2 hours a day. Everyone knows that COVID has changed the business world forever. And one of the biggest ways that COVID has changed us is how we perceive our business and how we want to work. Attorneys no longer want to work until 10 p.m. at night. Nobody does. People want to get back to living their lives and doing things that they really enjoy doing. They don't want to be stuck in the office until 10 p.m. at night. And they just want to enjoy having their life and having a successful career in estate planning. And that is why we asked Laura to come on recently to train our estate planning clients in how they can get their life back, all through virtual estate planning. In this podcast episode, you'll get Laura's tips on how you're able to work less, get more of your life back, and be able to run a successful estate planning firm all through virtual planning. And stick around to the end, because that's when Laura is going to share her success through the ACE system, which is what she implements at her firm. Let's dive in.
For example, I use time blocking, and I set aside on my online calendar, my booking calendar, I've got, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Clients can book meetings with me. And those are the 2 hours that I devote. And then the rest of the day, I block off and I've got other stuff going on. And so it's also really easy to put systems in place with estate planning. So, once you have systems in place, you can sort of funnel people through all of the same, the same procedures. Now, I'm not saying that you're providing cookie cutter legal documents or cookie cutter legal advice. I'm not saying that, but you're not recreating the wheel for every person who comes through your office, because the process is going to be pretty much the same for everyone. You get to help people. And then the cool thing here is that it really can be virtual. To me, this is so fascinating. When I opened my practice in 2016, and none of us had any idea that COVID would happen and what that would bring, but it was really entirely in person. Nobody would have hired you to do their estate plan without having come to your office and met at your office. And then all the meetings would be at your office, and you were really tethered to your office. And now you can literally have an estate planning practice working from the beach. You're always going to have some people who prefer to meet in person. And I think that's fine. What I tell my students is, think about what kind of a practice you want to have, because I often get the question, well, should I be in virtual? Should I be in person? What should I do? And my feeling is you should think about, do you want to be completely virtual? Do you want to be in person? Do you want to be hybrid? Think about that first. And then the people will come to you. So if you decide to be only virtual, well, you might miss some people who would prefer to meet you at your office, but you're also going to pick up some people who live 5 hours away, who are thrilled that you're virtual, because it means now they can work with you, whereas before COVID, they couldn't. I love the idea of hosting events, though. And the reason for this is because There's a couple of reasons. One is it just allows you to educate your prospects in that group setting, right? And we all know with estate planning, no one's really rushing to come in and hire you, to do their estate plan. If you're in a car accident or you just got your third DUI, then you're rushing to the lawyer's office, but it's not like that with estate planning. So there's kind of a nurturing component that has to happen. And then there's also an educational component. Most people have a sense that they should have an estate plan, or they need one, but they don't really know why. And so there's some education. To the extent that you can do that education in a group setting is really going to save you a ton of time. And so the best way to do that is by either hosting in-person seminars or by hosting webinars. Now, I know that you guys agree with me that a big part of having the webinar be successful is having a strong call to action.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, it's just a conversation. And then they don't know what to do with all that information you just gave them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You give all this great information. And I know a lot of attorneys, they feel like if they start talking about sort of the next step in the process, they feel uncomfortable doing that because they think it's a little bit salesy. And what I tell my students is that, people want to be led to the next step. And so you're encouraging people to attend the event. That's the first thing that you're selling. And then at the event, you need to sell that next step in the process, which is the consultation, baby steps. So what I teach my students is, you've got to spend about 10 minutes, I would say, at the end of the presentation, really selling the benefits of the next step in the process. Think of your events as, not as a sales pitch, but instead think of it as, I'm educating my community. I'm providing valuable information that people want to hear, and they want to hear it from someone who explains it in a way that doesn't make them feel stupid. The whole estate planning process, most people have never worked with an attorney. We've all been to the doctor. We've all had, a teacher, this and that, but most people have never worked with an attorney. And then, it's possible, depending on who's in your audience, that you've got people there who've kind of been talked down to, or just maybe they've been to see professionals that have kind of made them feel stupid. If you as the attorney, this is a long way of saying that if you as the attorney are able to give this information to people in a way that doesn't make them feel stupid and in a way that's helpful, I think that will help you get over this is just a sales pitch, and rather see it as you're helping your community by hosting these events. What you say at the event and what you say in the webinar is very important. And I don't mean as much of, the content, like a will versus a trust, and this is why you need an estate plan. That's not as important. You do want to present that, and you want to present it in a way that's digestible. But again, having that strong call to action is the step that most lawyers are missing.
Oh, give us the tips, Laura.
Yeah.
What's the strong call to action? I want to hear it.
So the strong call to action is going to be, I should have been more clear about that. Yeah, thank you.
Let's hear it. I want to know. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. So there's two things that you can do. So I recommend one of two things. You can either reveal your fees at the end of your webinar, or you can not reveal your fees. This is kind of the call to action part. So what I always teach is, don't reveal your fees to someone until they've been to either an event or they've come into your office for a consultation, but they have to have that hour of education first.
Sure.
In my opinion, because, we're not selling, I always say we're not selling eggs, right? People don't know what we're selling. It's not a commodity. They don't understand the value of the services we're providing. So they have to have, that hour of education first.
Sure.
Okay. So if you've sat through an hour of education at a webinar, then you can either reveal your fees at the end and say, okay, now you know all the things that you need to know. You've gotten all the same information that you would have gotten in a consultation. Now let's talk about what our fees are and our packages. And then you can reveal your fees and your packages. And then say, basically, you've got everything that you need to know. If you'd like to move forward with my firm, schedule a design meeting and basically bring your checkbook, right? So that could be one call to action, and that works pretty well, because then when they schedule a design meeting and you've made it really clear, when you come into the design meeting, we're going to sign an engagement letter, you're going to pick a package, you're going to pay, and we're going to design your estate plan. So that's one call to action. Now, if you don't feel comfortable revealing your fees, you can instead sell your consultation at that point. So the call to action can be, if you're interested in moving forward, the next step is to come in for what I call a peace of mind planning session, whatever your initial consultation is called. And then you start to talk about the benefits of that session. You'll fill out a questionnaire. We'll answer your questions. We'll go through your specific circumstances. I'll present your options to you. We'll talk about our fees in depth. And then if you decide to move forward, we'll take next steps. And so that's for people who don't want to reveal their fees at the end of the webinar. I really like the idea of going over your fees at the end, because then what ends up happening is you never sit down with someone one-to-one until they've decided to hire you, right? Which is, because the flip side of the coin here is, yeah, you want the revenue and you want as much revenue as you want, but not if it's going to keep you tethered to the office until 10 o'clock at night, right? So to the extent that you can peel off that education component that you do with every single prospect over and over and move that into a group setting, even if your conversion rate goes down a little bit, it's worth it because you're saving time and mental energy, not having to go through the same education. Now, if you were practicing personal injury, I would give you a completely different advice. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't seem to understand. What you do for a personal injury practice is going to be different from what you do for an estate planning practice. There might be some things that are similar, but with estate planning, everyone needs an estate plan. And you don't need to, it's not as fact specific in terms of getting the actual business. Like my understanding with like personal injury is, 10 people come into your office, but only one of them might actually have a case, right? But you need to meet with the 10 to find the one that actually has a case. Well, it's not like that with estate planning. So you want to just educate people in a group setting, make it clear that it's going to be more expensive for them not to hire you.
All right. So go ahead and tell me, you have the ACE roadmap to success. Let's go ahead and hear about this.
I call it ACE because I think that these are the three pieces that you have to have if you want to earn more working less. And what I find is that most lawyers might be good at one or two of these, but not all three. So basically ACE stands for, the A is for attracting leads. And we teach attracting leads by hosting either webinars or seminars, trying to spend as little on ads as possible. So that's the A. Now, like I said before, you're going to get business from all different places. The thing I like about webinars, in addition to the fact that it's educating and you're able to nurture, this is the thing that you have control over, right? So you don't necessarily have control over referrals, and referrals are great. They're great, right? But you don't have necessarily control over them. So I know in my practice, when I was short on business, the first thing I would do would just be to throw a webinar on the calendar because I knew that I was going to get some business from it. So that's the A. You've got to be able to do the A, right? And this is what most lawyers are, I think, concerned about. But there's two other pieces to it. The close, right? You've got to be able to close people who come into your office. There's no point in spending time or money getting leads if you don't have a consistent system in place for closing them at a fee that you deserve. Right. So that's the C. You've got to know how to do that. And for people that are newish to estate planning, you're going to find that there are some hurdles to get over. There's the, can I just do this myself hurdle, or, what's wrong with LegalZoom hurdle, or do I even need that? You've got those hurdles to get over that maybe you wouldn't have to get over if someone was on their third DUI, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. And then it's great getting all of this extra business, but not if it keeps you tethered to the office until 10 o'clock at night. So that's where the E for executing comes in. What can you automate? What can you delegate? Now, I'm not saying that you're shirking your responsibility as an attorney, right? You're still doing the things that you as the attorney should be doing, but there's a lot of things that can be automated or done by a rock star paralegal. All three have got to be dialed in to be successful, right? You can imagine an attorney who's really great at systems and this and that, but there's no point in having systems if you don't actually have any business. Our 2-Hour Lifestyle Lawyer program is really designed to teach you all three pieces of the puzzle.
Laura's story is one of inspiration. She's happier, she's living the life that she wants, she's not tied to her office, and she's able to still help people through estate planning. And she's able to do this through her ACE system. And it goes in 3 steps. So the first step is group webinars. It's about killing two birds with one stone, educating people in a group setting. The second step is being able to close those webinars with a strong CTA, a strong call to action. And let's face it, that's a weak link for many, many business owners, especially attorneys. And then finally, the last step in that is being able to delegate and automate and pass along the tasks that other people could easily do so she can focus spending time on where she wants to spend her time. And she's figured out the system, and now she's taking on other attorneys to train them how they can do this at their law firms. Also, if you are interested in her program or just to get in contact with Laura, you can scroll down and find her information below. If you'd like to learn more about how to grow your practice through online marketing, we are now offering a free 60-minute free workshop online. If you're interested in doing that, go ahead and scroll down and we'll have that link for you. So that way you can sign up for the next free workshop. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Elder Law Growth Podcast, the place to be for all things marketing for elder law and estate planning law firms. If you liked this podcast, please leave us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you'd like to outsource your marketing to our team, go to bambiz.net and book a free call with us today.